Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide for the Cleric in Solasta 2's early access. Now this only goes up to level 4 currently, but I'll be taking you through all the choices here, so the ancestry, background, spells, choices, everything you need to make a powerful cleric. We'll be talking about the 3 different subclasses. Now we got the life domain, which is obviously straightforward healer. We also got the oblivion domain with gravekeeper, allowing us to pick up our downed allies, which is extremely effective at protecting them, as well as using the herald of pain to give disadvantage attack rolls to an enemy. There's my favorite, the battle domain, however, which gets a ton of powerful spells like magic missile, shield, acid arrow, shatter, fireball, haste, and more powerful spells at later levels which aren't currently in the game. And it can even do some pretty strong melee attacks. Now the cleric is at the top of the character creator here because it's probably the most important thing you can have in a party. It's a healer, which actually is good in this game because combat is extended out much longer than if you're familiar with Baldur's Gate 3. On top of that, we got lots of buffs to the healing spells in this game. Now, our hit die is a D8, meaning we get that much hit points every time that we're going to be leveling up, plus our constitution modifier. We also have saving throws in charisma and wisdom. There's actually a bit more charisma saves in this game than you may be used to, which is nice. Wisdom saves are some of the worst to get hit with. Now, we got choices for our skill proficiencies here, which we'll get to in a moment. Now, one of the cool things is any cleric subclass can get heavy armor proficiency. They always come with medium armor, shields, and simple weapons. But it's our divine order here, so you can actually see you can go without martial weapons and heavy armor, but if we choose the protector here, that is how we get that. Protector is obviously great in combat, but if you like to be good outside of combat as well, the Thaumaturge here will give us an additional cleric cantrip. On top of that, we get a bonus to our intelligence checks, arcana and religion, equal to our wisdom modifier. So that can be good, especially if you want to be, good outside of combat. But protector, we love heavy armor and getting martial weapons because there's actually some good ones here, which means we can replace the mace with a morning star, which is a lot better. Now, I would recommend going with a protector there. Race selection is kind of personal preference, what you want to be looking at for your character of choice. Now, there are some good choices, like the Sylvan Elf here gets an increased movement speed to 35 feet. They also get a couple extra spells at higher levels. The High Elf is cool because they get Firebolt and you can change it out for other spells. They also get Long Strider and Misty Step, making you a great support cleric. I also like the Dwarf because they got their Dwarven Resilience, resistance to poison damage, an additional hit point every time you level up. Stone Cutting, which lets them see any targets within a range that is touching stone, and they get dark vision built in. Halfling is what I rolled with because Halfling's luck, when you roll a 1 on a d20, you can then re-roll that and use the new result. You also get the ability to move through a space or creature that's larger than you. Brave gives advantage on saving throws to avoid or end. Frightened, and naturally stealthy, which lets you be a little stealthy. But my personal preference, the humans are just really good in 2024's rule set. You get resourceful, the heroic inspiration here, allowing you to re-roll a die if you ever miss an attack or saving throw. You also get skillful, which is really good. You get to choose another skill proficiency. We get a lot of that. And we also get versatile. And this is really good because it's going to give us a choice of a few different feats. You could go the magic initiate here, which will give us additional 2 cleric cantrips and 1 spell, or the wizard version, which gives 2 wizard cleric cantrips and 1 wizard spell. This is pretty nice because it can open us up to doing a lot of different things with this build. Now, quick is always great because this gives us increased movement speed, and opportunities against attacks against us will have disadvantage, which is nice if your cleric needs to move around to heal. We also get the robust feature here, which is kind of similar to the dwarf. So you get an initial hit point every time you level up, and when you use a hit point die to replenish your hit points, you get to roll 2 of them and use a higher result, and you get hard to kill. So if you become stable while unconscious at 0 hit points, you immediately regain 1. This is pretty good, especially because you don't want your cleric going down. So having them be able to be hard to kill is actually a really nice feat to have. So this is one that I typically prefer to use just because we're getting more survivability, a little bit better than a dwarf, and we still get the skillfulness and especially resourcefulness from the heroic inspiration to protect ourselves from a saving throw potentially. Now for our backgrounds, these are interesting because some of them are going to give us benefits similar to our ancestry here. The one that just stands out to me as being the best choice is the Acolyte, giving us constitution, intelligence, wisdom. This lets us increase those stats. And we also get the medicine, religion skills, which obviously make a lot of sense for this. We get a master tool of herbalism here, which is quite nice, but the background feature is great because this gives us more cleric spells, and that's something we want because as we level up, we want to have a lot of different options here. So this is a really nice choice. The Ascetic here is also a good choice, getting Constitution and Wisdom, but it also gives us the Robust feature, which we would have taken from the Human. So if you went with a different ancestry, this can be a solid one because we want to increase our Constitution and our Wisdom. And the Lawkeeper also gets that, and they get Vigilant here, which is actually a really nice choice because you get Proficiency in Perception, as well as Surprise does not give us a disadvantage on our initiative rolls. So if you're out exploring, you're not going to get hit as hard. I still think the Acolyte ends up being the best choice because this gives us more Cleric spells, and we have a lot of them that we want to use. Now, For our stats, I would recommend going with 14 strength, 16 constitution, and 16 wisdom here with 10 points intelligence and charisma. You could put a few points into your dexterity there out of like your charisma or your intelligence there, because it's nice to have that rounded off like that. So I'd recommend going with something like this or the charisma at 10. The reason we want to have our strength at 14 is because there's a lot of weapons and we can actually, as a cleric, do melee attacks a little bit. Since we don't go to level 5, we don't get the extra attacks. There's no real big downside to doing that. And most times, I'm going to be honest, Sacred Flame does not hit as a dexterity save. So it's probably better for us to do weapon attacks. So 14 strength, 16 con, and 16 wisdom. And then you're going to have to put your constitution points +2 and wisdom at +1 there. This also brings us to our proficiencies. So we got medicine built in from our acolyte background alongside religion, which is great, but we can also throw an insight because that's a wisdom based skill. So we get a +5 to that. Since we have a -1 to charisma, I would recommend going with history, and persuasion is going to be handled by like our paladin or our sorcerer there. So we also get from our human ancestry another choice. Since wisdom is a animal's handling as a wisdom skill, we could go with that. Survival being another really good choice, and my personal preference is perception. So that's something you roll for often, and we want to be good at that. It's a wisdom skill. We're going to take that. That's why I mentioned taking the skilled, and like if we go with a versatile and take skilled here, that can be really nice, because we can get 3 more proficiencies, and we're good at a lot of skills, but robust for the extra health just ends up being the best choice there. So we'll take perception for our human skill. Now for our languages, I like to take one, like if I'm playing as an elf, I'm going to take Elvish for them. You could also go with something like, you want to basically have this spread out between your teams, so just be mindful who's taking what. I'm going to go Goblin and Gnomish here. Now for cantrips, we got a few great options here. Now Dazzle's great because it can stop a target from using reactions as a bonus action if we need to run away. That is really nice. Guidance is something you should always have. Adds a 1d4 bonus to the target's ability checks for up to 1 minute. You can use this in dial. Yeah, always have this basically. We also have some fun healing options. I would recommend like Holy Conduit being a nice one here because it's an area of effect attack doing a 1d6 radiant damage to a target on a constitution save, so it is a little bit tricky, but also it can chain around to multiple targets doing a 1d4. Another one I would highly recommend grabbing is Spare the Dying. Now, the reason that this is so good is that your teammates are going to go down. It's just the nature of a game like this. It's a little more challenging than Baldur's Gate in some ways. So being able to stabilize a dying target is really good because this will just make it so that they don't do a death saving throw and get wrecked. So yeah, I'd recommend having this because it has a 30-foot range, so very useful. Resistance is kind of nice, but I like to have at least 1 damage cantrip, so it's either Sacred Flame or Holy Conduit. This is a Constitution or Dex save. Sacred Flame is going to miss often. I'd like to get a like hand crossbow or crossbow of some sort on my character as soon as possible. Now the Cleric also gets to prepare their spells, and as you level up, you're going to get more choices, so the most important spell, I would say, is Bless. Giving a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws is going to save your hide so many times in this game, so just take it. I also would recommend Cure Wounds. Now, if you're used to playing Baldur's Gate 3, that spell sucked. It's much better this time around. It does a 2d8 of healing now, and your spellcasting ability modifier. On top of that, it's a game where combat is extended out a lot, so being able to sustain your team is actually something that's useful this time around versus just trying to crowd control and deal a ton of damage. So this is actually actually really good pick. I would also recommend throwing on top of that Guiding Bolt, which can give your teammates advantage. If you got a rogue, they'll thank you for that. It also will shed light, so if you have people that can't see and you're in a cave, that can help out too. I would also recommend having Healing Word for that 2d4 bonus action heal, so you can burn through your spell slots quickly, but if you need a bonus action heal, it's nice to have both options as a cleric. Inflict Wounds can be good for a close range attack doing a 2d8 or 2d10 necrotic. I would recommend saving weapon attacks for most, especially if you're going with the battle domain, because that can be honestly quite good. So Shield of Faith is my recommendation. Giving a +2 to armor class is really nice, honestly. Inflict Wounds is okay, but it just burns through your spell slots a little too quickly. And once we get to level 3, now you can add in another class, multi-class, I'll be talking in a future video, but we're going to go with my personal preference is the battle domain, and I'm going to talk about all 3 because if you go with a different one, this will apply here. So just a brief overview, the life domain gets Aid, Bless, Cure Wounds, and Lesser Restoration in the early access here. The later get Mass Healing Word and Revivify. You also get the Disciple of Life here, which will add a 2+ as a spell slot level healing on top of every heal that you do. So you're just better at healing, and you also get a Channel Divinity to do 5 times your cleric level healing among all targets. So once we get level 4 level cap, it's only 20 healing among your team, so you can do it on 1 target for 20 heals, which is nice as a bonus Channel Divinity ability. The Oblivion domain is great because if you have a dying ally, you can see within 1 meter, you can use your Channel Divinity, or you can use a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier, this ability to help them up with 1 hit point, and you can replenish this per short rest, which is often. And you also get a passive, so allies within 30 feet of you will get advantage on their death saving throw, and you also have advantage on yours. great. It happens often in this game. We also have the Herald of Pain, so it's our channel divinity doing a 2d8 plus cleric level necrotic damage to each hostile creature within 30 feet of you. A target also has disadvantage on attack rolls for up to 1 turn, and they can make a save on this. It's a wisdom save. They'll do it every single turn. My preference is the battle domain. This is fun because this gives you, at this level, magic missile and shield. So we have a reaction to protect ourselves and magic missile, which is guaranteed damage, and sometimes the best choice. Acid Arrow and Shatter are also included. Fireball is a nice one too once we get to level 5, not currently in the early access, but it's a future. We also get the Divine Fortitude, so you gain 3 times your cleric level in temporary hit points once per long rest, so you can use this just to extend our life quite a bit. This is right now going to be just 12, but it's nice. Armed and Ready gives you the ability to cast your spells when you have a shield in one or both hands. This is crazy because normally you'd have to hold something to be able to cast, and typically you're going to have like one to be your mace and the offhand have your shield, and you just swap between them. With this lets us just use our melee weapon and have our shield in our hands and still be able to spell cast, which is so good. And we get the Decisive Strike here. So when you hit a creature with our melee weapon attack, and I want to say, hitting them with a melee attack is good. You can use your channel divinity to do an additional 2d6 plus cleric level force damage, and on a failed constitution save, the target becomes incapacitated till the beginning of your next turn. This is crazy. I can't explain it enough. This, I would say, is the best choice for the cleric. All 3 of them return from Solasta 1. The life domain being more healer focused, Oblivion being a support, the battle domain just being crazy, and it's also a healer. So really good, especially if you pair this with Paladin, just because you get so much out of both of them. This also gives us another level 1 and 2 level 2 spell slots. Level 3 is a really nice one. Now, hitting level 4 gives us a feat selection. There are a lot of feats in this game. There's some that are going to give you bonuses to saving throw, like give you proficiency in it and increase your score by 1. There's also some like Blessing of the Elements, which will give you +1 constitution and allow you to use your reaction to become resistant to an elemental damage type. I really like the Eager for Battle, increasing our movement speed by 10 feet, and when we roll for initiative, we can add our proficiency bonus twice to the roll, and it will give us a +1 to a stat of our choosing. Flawless Concentration is also amazing, and I see this being one of the best feats for the cleric at later levels in early access whenever we get up higher and like get Spirit Guardians, for example. Flawless Concentration gives us a +1 to Constitution. You have advantage on Constitution saving throws to maintain your concentration, and you automatically succeed any saving throws for concentration when you take 10 damage or less, almost like a Star Druid. It's really good. There's also some fun ones like Powerful Cantrip if you really want to, Patient Strike. You can even go with the Magic Initiate and even some of the previous feats that we went with, but I honestly think that at this point it's probably best for us to just go with a good old-fashioned ability score improvement and then use this to be able to increase our wisdom up to 18. If you find you're going down often, it boosts your constitution, can be okay, but wisdom just ends up being the better choice. Now, we get to take another choice in spell, or should I say cantrip. I like Divine Shield. This can be actually a pretty useful one that gives temporary hit points, which can be somewhat useful. But you can just go with the Dazzle bonus action, Guidance, Holy Conduit, and Sacred Flame and keep it consistent with that. And this cleric also gets Scorching Ray and Shatter for its level 2 spell, so you have great damage options. Hold Person being my recommendation, which will paralyze a target, and then you can go ahead with a Scorching Ray if you want to burn through all your spell slots and do a crazy amount of damage. This would be the way to do it. I also like Prayer Healing's not really that great. It makes you do a short rest, basically. Life Drain will give you amount of temporary hit points equal to the half the damage you deal with it, which is really nice. I also like Aid, giving ourselves increased maximum hit points by 5 and raises their current hit points. Just because Sustain is so good in this game. Blindness is also a good spell, but I just think Hold Person, being able to paralyze a target on a wisdom save alongside Scorching Ray and Shatter is just our best choice. I actually reloaded a previous save after I was meant to change out all my equipment, but throwing on a Morning Star here just feels right because it has the sapping, similar to the mace, but it is a piercing damage with a 1d8. So since we got martial weapon, we may as well use it. As well as throwing on heavy armor, I just have the chain shirt on there, which gear is kind of random, so we're just going to go with that for the time being, as things will probably change during early access. So stay tuned for future videos and subscribe if you want to see some more Solasta 2. But our role in combat it's kind of a varied one, because if you're running with another paladin, they're a very capable healer now with the 2024 rule set, so they can kind of take the heat off you to do some damage as well, especially as a battle domain. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, a light crossbow is better than Sacred Flame 9 times out of 10. You're going to see that we are not very likely with a 30% chance of hitting that target versus, oh geez, 15. That was not, he's in a bush, so he breaks line of sight. So I guess that is a good reason to use Sacred Flame, is anytime there's if there's cover, this is not getting affected by it, which weapon, like that's something if you're playing Baldur's Gate 3, you wouldn't have had like half cover and things like that in that game. So big change to this game, Matt. One thing I'd recommend doing is looking obviously to see if your team needs healing. That's kind of our priority, but we can do bonus action healing much like the paladin can as well. We also have some very powerful spells, and that's typically going to be what we want to do if we want to do a ton of damage, or something like hold person, which is really effective because that's just going to take that target out of combat, and then we got critical hits against them. They failed the saving throw, perfect, we lock them down. That is a smart use of our concentration. And I would always recommend swapping back to having your shield out after each turn, just so you have that for combat or for defense. And the best part about hold person is then our fighters can just get in and start doing some crazy stuff there. So we got an attack off, and then action surge. Obviously the fighter is just so good, especially in the 2024 rule set. So yeah, when we got our attacks off easily. So here's a situation where everyone on our team has full health again, so we don't have to worry about that. So our priority now is to do an attack. So we have some, and it'll also incapacitate them, which is really good if they fail the Constitution save. And we got that off on them, and they became incapacitated. Perfect. So they're now, yeah, that's so good. They can't take their action, bonus action, or reaction. So they're basically a sitting duck now, which is great. We have 2 targets now as our cleric. You got that opportunity attack off there, so you can just go ahead applying the slow. And we're there just to kind of take out as many targets from the action economy as possible, because we want to be trying to, you know, protect and be proactive with reducing the damage versus reactive and just healing it back. And sometimes grouping your team up together can allow you to get some opportunity attacks off, which are really nice. And yeah, it can sometimes be great if you got your paladin there. I would highly recommend having a paladin as well as a cleric. They're just 2 really good characters to pair along each other, because the paladin, despite having their bonus action be eaten up by divine smite, they can nuke damage or heal. So can us. So we got kind of a mixture there. We're kind of burning through our spell slots here, so we could just use a regular weapon attack, or we got magic missile, which is nice. If there's multiple targets that are low on hit points, like this enforcer here, if this was a better setup, magic missile is your best choice. I'm gonna use scorching ray because I think this looks awesome. Oh geez, I shouldn't have clicked that. Only 12%. Yeah. The bushes are bad, watch out for those. We did get a hit off against that target there. He has 1 hit point left. Now here's a situation where you might want to actually heal our teammate. They got hit with an attack. We can use a bonus action spell like Healing Word here. Since they don't need a lot of hit points, this is a 2d4. It's much better than it was in Baldur's Gate 3. So this 2d4 is actually more than enough because we're getting a +4 on top of it. So I would not recommend using a higher level spell slot. That's why it's nice to have the option for both a bonus action and a main action spell, because we can then also go ahead. We can only cast 1 spell per turn. So that's something to keep in mind. You can't go ahead with like 2 of those spells at once, but you can also go ahead with like a healing potion if you wanted to heal yourself. We got cantrips like Holy Conduit and Sacred Flame here just to give ourselves 1 option. And again, that's not going to hit often. But we can also just do a melee weapon attack or a bow attack. Now here's a situation where I could use hold person with a 55% success rate, but Scorching Ray is the way to go here with just guaranteed, almost guaranteed damage there. We got it. And again, you want to be on the lookout just to see if your team needs hit points, but typically if they don't, it's best to just go on the all-out offense or using hold person. The reason being is that if we can reduce the amount of targets we're facing off against, that means that our team has less attacks that they have to take, which means we have to heal less. So it's kind of the way to go. This target here, we could use magic missile, but I would just recommend going with the gold Sacred Flame here. Of course he saves. Jeez, he got a crit and I got taken 18 damage. That's what I mentioned about this game sometimes being a little brutal at times, because you can get hit really hard. Thankfully, our paladin has lay hands so that he can kind of contribute as well as a bonus action. That is really nice. And your paladin can also take cleric spells too, so you can get a mixture of a lot of heals going on. We're going to go with guaranteed damage here and try to magic missile him, not to mess around. 4, 4, and 2. God, wasn't enough. So we'll try that again there. Maybe enough. Yeah, we got the victory. Perfect. So that is a cleric build for in Solasta 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below as well. Hope you guys all have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next one.